Welcome to the Beacon House Podcast, recorded live in Knoxville, Tennessee.
If they can make candy cigarettes, why can't they make candy razor blades for me to stick in kids' Three Musketeers? Oh, there's a razor. Oh, never mind. It's candy. It's candy.
That was a case.
The only way to know is to bite it too.
Exactly. Has that sheen on it real well, but it dissolves in your mouth. It doesn't cut you up.
It's got cherry filling though, so you're not sure until it burns.
Okay. Well, that's a great intro for our Halloween episode. Thanks for tuning in today, everybody.
I think that's what the anti-vaxxer did to you for real, Casey.
That's gross.
The one that purposely gave me autism?
Yes.
Thanks.
This is the Beacon House.
That bitch put me on the spectrum.
Oh, shit. I'm just going to wait for this to die. He's going to wait for it to die. While Hunter's resolving his giggle fit.
It sounds like somebody's jerking off a hyena.
Ladies and gentlemen, that voice you heard, that is our legendary guest today on the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Hurley. He's finally here.
Oh, man, it is great to be. I've been wanting to do this for a while. So
get a little closer to that mic.
Hold it a little bit straighter.
Just
and get
really get it.
Let me
just
really jerk it.
Just drop it in there.
Jerk the shit out of it.
This is a dirty Halloween episode.
It's
this
not
episode
just you.
Let me caress it. Okay, we're good now, I think.
Is it behaving okay? And now maybe point
it's
it.
a little better.
Point it.
Little better.
Point the tip of it right to the.
Oh, the tip.
Oh,
that's the tip.
Good.
Just make sure it can touch your tongue.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Just the tip.
Yeah, just keep it about a tongue length away.
All right.
So, but no, it's great to be here. Man, I've been looking forward to doing this. I called Spence a couple of months ago and was like, hey, we need to really get together and do some of this and tell this story. So absolutely fantastic. Really excited to be here.
That's really good. And yeah, man, we've got a really, really kind of a legendary fucking story to tell everybody. And we figured, why not do it on Halloween? And we'll get to that in just a minute. But now I want to go back. You guys may remember Joe from an episode we did where I told a story. It was one of the first episodes that Casey and I did without Hunter. And we told a story about Joe dealing with the psychic when he used to sell cars. And I want to go ahead and make a correction here. I got the name wrong. I was wrong about which psychic it was. During the story, or the podcast we did, I said that the psychic was Bobby Drennan. And it was not, in fact, Bobby Drennan. Joe, will you reveal...
Yes, so it was not Bobby Drennan. Actually, the name of the psychic was a fellow named David Gardino.
Which is a terrible name.
Terrible name. Actually sounds like a bad snack. But
It's like David Gardino, the owner of Gondolier Italian restaurants.
the name might just be slightly less bad than he was as a psychic.
Oh God, man. Okay. So yeah, but everything else in that story that you heard is 100% true. And Joe really did fleece the guy, and he said all that stuff. We just had the name wrong, and I don't know what that says about psychics in general. But just no offense to any psychics out there.
Hunter, you keep looking at your phone. Do you have something you want to tell us? Is there?
I'm waiting to get queued up.
I'm queuing you up right now, motherfucker. Let's do this shit.
Well, I hear there's some disturbing news going on. Speaking of Halloween, there's some disturbing shit in the Halloween news. You want to?
Yeah, the people of Salem apparently are bringing back my ancestors.
Yeah, that's true. So what Casey's referring to is Salem, Massachusetts, notorious, as we all know, for witch hunts and witch trials, which are now happening today in a different way, decided they were going to just exacerbate everything going on
there.
in real life. That's what I do. I just drop little nuggets.
He drops it in.
That's the reason I hate Raisinets now.
God. There's a thing called Ouija-zilla, which I already fucking hate that name.
Yeah, just regardless of how you feel about any of this, that's a terrible fucking name. Just go on.
Yeah. So we're just going to give you some specs and then tell you what it is real quick. Ouija-zilla weighs 9,000 pounds, covers 3,168 square feet, which is 5 18-wheelers, footprint kind of thing.
Sure.
But are we talking about a board, or are we talking about the dump I took this morning?
I think the end result's going to be the same.
Hey!
Yeah, according to Popular Mechanics, this is all on mentalfloss.com, by the way. Cite your sources. The board took 99 pieces of plywood, 20 quarts of black paint, and deck stain, and some dude decided to build it. It was originally in New Jersey. They moved it to Salem. It contains all the classic elements of a Ouija board, full alphabet, numbers 0 through 9, yes, no, goodbye, all that stuff.
I feel like they moved it away from New Jersey because the people in New Jersey were like, hey, the fuck is this shit? What's this by the pier? I fucking hate it.
You could have been somebody.
Yeah.
Don't come into my sub shop. You go visit that Ouija Zilla, you little bitch. Yeah, but so what is planchette? I guess is the name of the little dial.
We call
cursor
it,
thing.
we referred to it as the cursor back in our
Sure, but
day.
so everyone knows the triangular cursor that goes over everything.
Okay.
Obviously, you can't have one for something this large, where they decided not to build it. They were going to go 99% and stop. A few people, it said, stand inside the 400-pound... they do have one. I misread that. So they have one. It's 400-pound planchette. So the people stand inside the cutout where the lens is in the original thing.
Right.
And they shuffle their way into a seance, in quotes. They shuffle their way into a seance. So clearly this article's taking the piss out of something that is just going to take the piss right out of you, if you're a fucking idiot. Yeah, so it's in Salem. You can go visit it if you want. And
So does that mean that you two will never go to Salem now?
I would love to go to Salem. I've actually been to Salem before, and I would love to go to like the Witch Museum, and I'm a big fan of like the witch trials, and
The Witch Museum is awesome.
but I'm not going to stand on that fucking Ouija board. And,
No, absolutely not. I would love, like you're saying, to visit visit some of the places. I'd actually really like to go to places in Connecticut and visit some of these old haunted historic sites and everything. It'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody that gets caught on satellite footage from now on getting whipped around inside that thing.
You guys heard it here
deserve
first. Me and Joe Hurley are going to do a paranormal investigation crew starting soon.
Stay tuned.
Do you want to go? You want to go spend the night in the Waverly Hills Sanatorium up in Kentucky?
Oh, absolutely.
Why did I not hang out with Joe Hurley before you guys?
We all make mistakes in life, Casey. Just got to learn from them. So,
Yeah. And what's going to happen today is we're going to tell you, Joe and I are going to tell you exactly why we don't want to go visit that fucking Ouija board, and why that's possibly a terrible idea for whoever's building it up there. I mean, I don't know if there is going to be a good part of this podcast. This is really a very unpleasant story.
There wasn't anything good in the story. Nothing good came of it.
That I understand that, but hearing this story before, I know that it is a good yarn. It is a good tale.
Definitely is. Okay, so going back, we'll talk about Ouija boards too. And again, I don't know the whole history of Ouija boards, and I mean, I know that Parker Brothers commercialized them sometime mid-century.
1966.
Okay.
That was in the article, sorry.
There you go. And before that,
Well done.
it was before that date, they were still around. And how long have they been around? Well, like, what is the origin of the Ouija board? Does anybody know?
I know there's an episode of the last podcast on the left where they cover the history of Ouija boards.
Really?
And I believe they started out as something that fortune tellers and people who did seances would use to talk to other people's like relatives, like dead relatives and things like that. And then Parker Brothers looked at it and was like, oh, that'd be a fun game for kids. And then they just started mass producing them.
And Parker Brothers, notably based out of Salem as well, which was something I didn't know. So
Really?
I would assume they probably saw all the shit Casey was just saying and went, we're in Spookyville, so commercialize it.
Interesting. Okay, well, all that I knew about Ouija boards is that there was one in my parents' closet. And it was an old one. It was not a Parker Brothers Ouija board. It came from way, way, way back. And I want to say the name on the board was William Fuld, F-U-L-D, Baltimore, Maryland. And somebody at some point during the retelling of this story did a little research on that guy. And apparently whoever William Fuld was, he had kind of a nefarious background. Now, I've never actually Googled it. Keep in mind, a lot of this stuff happened not necessarily pre-internet, but pre-smartphone. And so the whole reason we started, the Ouija board never looked like any fun to us. Like, it has no moving parts. There's no, like, actual game that you can win. Apparently, people just whipped them out at parties and tried to do a seance.
And you learned that they weren't fun, right?
Which is, we certainly did.
Okay.
But it's bizarre to me that they even, like, I don't know. What do you think? I think it's fucking weird that thing even gained popularity. I can't believe it was sold by Parker Brothers.
Yeah, I mean, if you really just think about the basic concept, what is fun about that?
I think it's like the spooky aspect of it. Like,
Exactly.
people who use it, and like there's like that one friend who knows what they're like, knows that they're the one moving it, and they can make it say things, and it's like fun for like a group of teenagers to make it say shit that you want it to say.
And this is as Halloween was gaining traction too.
But-
So if you think, sorry,
Well, I don't think people understood that it could potentially be something
actually
that
be
could
real.
open
Yeah.
portals or gateways to a different side.
If you think about what it does functionally at a party, as stupid as it is, it's Parker Brothers found the one way that you can capitalize the fireside ghost story, because you can't make profit off of that. It's just people spitting, bullshit.
That is true. And even if you just put it on the table and nothing
but it does
really,
the same thing. You have to buy it to get there.
Yeah, it gets everybody around it, and then they start telling ghost stories. And I get it. I can see where somebody would go, hey, we'll sell at least like, we're not going to sell like Monopoly, but we'll sell blah, 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 blah of these,
Yeah, so don't buy it. This episode is, in fact, sponsored by Parker Brothers.
Yeah. So this whole story started, again, early 90s. I mean, it was all, I know that we were in high school because we'd already met some of the other characters in the story. And let me go ahead and just lay this out. Before we start telling this story, I just want to preface this by saying, and you can make up your own mind whether I'm a liar or not, but this is 100% true. And that's going to be tough for some people to get their head around as we get into this. But all of these things are demonstrably 100% true. I give you my word. I swear to God. I swear on the lives of both of my parents, which are no longer alive. But, I mean, I'm here to tell you, like, this shit really happened. And I've gotten to the point where I will only tell this if Joe Hurley is here. And we used to tell this a lot. And
we did. And over the years, people have had that same struggle that, oh, man, that just can't be. It can't be. It can't be. This is. There's nothing not true about this story.
That's true. And this is easily one of the defining moments in our life. Like, this is the thing is we're going to know this till our grave. Mm-hmm. And you forget other little things like little bits and pieces, but this is very crystal clear. And there's a couple details that sometimes I'll get wrong. That's why I only ever want to tell this if Joe's around. So, Joe, thank you for coming in today. And we'll just kind of go back and forth. The earliest thing I remember about it is I was trying to have, again, this always goes back to music for me, but I was trying to have a little band. And I had a couple of dudes that I played with, and we were trying to come up with a band name. And I had seen a documentary or something that a lot of famous bands got their name from a Ouija board. And and again, you can back me up on this. I'm pointing at Hunter. How fucking hard it is to come up with a band name ever. It's so hard.
It's so hard.
They all sound terrible until you like own them, or it's just horrible.
Or someone says something.
Yeah, exactly.
In the room. Yeah.
It's terrible to come up with one. And so we were literally willing to do anything to try to come up with a band name, even if it was just gibberish. And I knew there was an old Ouija board in my parents' closet because I'd seen it as we were unpacking. And the box was all torn up and it was super old. And like I said, it wasn't a Parker Brothers. It went back to like 1926 or something. Super, super old. And what did you call the thing? Planchette?
That's what it looked like in the article. Planchette.
Okay. I'm going to, from here forward, I'll refer to it as a cursor.
This is what it is.
And it's got a little needle in it. In a window, so when it hovers over one of the letters, you can see what letter you're looking at, or if it goes to yes or no, or the sun or the moon. And the Ouija board itself, I will admit, the Ouija board itself is a cool looking thing. And recently on Christine McConnell, she made one, out of like gingerbread or whatever, and it looked really fucking cool. She called it a spirit board because there might be like a copyright. I don't know. Anyway, I get that they're cool looking, and we thought, fuck yeah, we'll screw with that, see if we come up with anything. So I drag it out of my parents' closet. At some point, you showed up, or you were already hanging out.
When I got there, Jeremy and Jason were both there.
They were already there. Okay, and we're gonna go ahead and say we're gonna say the first names of the people who were involved. We're not gonna say their last names because I don't want anybody getting harassed or anything like that. But the people involved, the other characters involved in the story besides Joe and myself are Jeremy, Jason, John.
Yep.
And that's it.
That's it.
The five of us. Okay.
That's it.
So we pulled the board down and we started messing with it. Okay. And at first nothing happened. And it was just dumb. And we probably screwed with it 15 or 20 minutes. And we were like, this is stupid. And then things changed. I don't remember exactly what was going on that afternoon, but like my parents weren't home. We were in the living room and it was different all of a sudden. I don't know how to describe.
There is no describing what happened. It was, it went from us just kind of all sitting around thinking we knew maybe what to do. And I feel at some point that we may have been in control at first, right?
Sure. Yeah,
I
we
feel
started
at some
out
point
doing
that we really may have been in control.
We were moving this, and it's worth mentioning too, we didn't have the cursor, so we cut one out of the box. And I don't know why we thought we had to use the box or what, but we just thought if there is some kind of a spiritual force here, it needs to be all contained. We need to use only the original materials. So we cut a heart-shaped thing out of the box, and that was our cursor. And it made contact with the board, and it was so old and dusty at this point that it was really easy to slide around. And I think we intentionally started out doing like a figure eight kind of a pattern. And then all of a sudden, the thing started, instead of pushing it, it started to feel like you were being pulled all over the board. It was pulling your hands, and your hands are sticking to the cardboard, and there was nothing sticky, and not sticky like, I don't know, you know what I'm saying?
No, it was almost as if you weren't touching it, but you were being forced to move with it at the same time.
That's exactly what it felt like to me. That is what he just said is exactly what I felt sitting across from him. There were 4 of us at the time. The board was touched. We were sitting crisscross applesauce. You're not allowed to say Indian style anymore, are you? But we were taught in school to call it Indian style. Sorry about that if that's insensitive. But we were sitting cross-legged with the board on all of our knees. And now the thing just starts whipping around.
So anecdotally, because most of the evidence in this story is going to be anecdotal for you guys listening, obviously. That's one of the big disconnects people have is like how you can tell whether or not your friends are fucking with you by pulling it. So
Sure.
You're saying like there was a disconnect. Like it felt like you weren't touching it anymore, but you were all actively
Absolutely.
still. Okay.
And it's more of a, and it would just had like it happened like that.
Yeah,
The snap of a finger to where you're being pulled with something. You're no longer pushing. You're being pulled.
This is true. And it wasn't at all like, it wasn't a progression. It was just 1 minute it was not like that, and the next minute it was completely different.
What was the first thing it said? Or what did it start saying off the bat?
It didn't. It started moving, and then we were like, fuck, ask it something, you know?
And I think, man, this has been a long time ago, but
Yeah,
if
it's
I'm remembering right, I think the first thing we asked is, who is this?
Who are you?
Who are you?
Who is this? Who are you? And then that's just kind of how it works, man. You just start asking questions after that. And I'm not trying to like turn anybody on to it. I don't think you should screw with these things. Let me preface this too. This is not an instruction manual. This goes to some pretty bad places. But this is how it happened. And we didn't know. We were just like, well, fucking ask it something. And at this point, looking for band names was completely out the window. Like now we really felt like we were talking to a ghost. And it turns out it was.
So, yeah, and it's, so the other thing that I want to drop in here, and I don't know if you felt this way, but I've thought about this a lot over the years, and I feel that the questions that we started asking weren't necessarily just something that we came up with. It's almost like you felt like the further this whole experience went, was like you felt what you were going to ask. It wasn't just
Almost like somebody was over your shoulder whispering what to ask it.
very much like it was you just knew the right thing to say.
That, you know what's weird? I never thought about it, but that is how I felt. I definitely felt that way. And I just felt compelled.
Yep.
So we were like, who are you? How did you die? What happened? And it wasn't, this is important, it was not scary at this point. It was not frightening at all. It was
No, not at all.
totally peaceful.
And who was it you were talking to? Did
It was
it ever
a kid, Tommy?
I want to say, I've tried to remember.
He told us
I
its
almost
name.
want to say David.
David. It was David. It was David.
And I know that a lot of people.
You're right.
A lot of people say that demons mask themselves as children.
Well,
to give you a false sense of
maybe,
security.
and you know what? I can't prove that didn't
It's very
happen.
possible.
But we did not have the feeling like this was something
Zero dread.
malevolent, zero dread. And it just kept saying
Actually, it was more of a feeling of sympathy.
sympathy. Yeah, who are you? Anyway, to kind of keep the story moving along, we asked it a shitload of fucking questions. Who are you? What happened to you? And it turned out it was a kid who had been killed by a stray bullet
Yep.
during some kind of a shooting back in the 20s. He was sitting in a car when it happened, and his mom had left the car to go get something, and a gunfight, probably Prohibition
I'd
era,
imagine, yeah.
gunfight broke out. Stray bullet hit the kid, and now the kid is some sort of a spirit in limbo or whatever, but not mean at all, not bad, and like didn't threaten us or anything like that. The cursor was moving actively, but not erratically, and we were just straight up talking to a ghost in the middle of the afternoon, daylight, you know.
Very fluid motions, like he's explaining. And
Yeah.
it was very, my feeling was really sympathetic.
Same.
Right? Like, gosh, this is terrible. I can't believe that happened to you. It's such a kind of putting us at ease in a feeling with, man, this is awful. This happened to this kid. And so you never felt anything bad until the moment that you did.
Exactly. And it was actually real comforting. And all the questions we asked, I don't remember what all we asked it, but we asked it a lot of shit. And all the stuff that we asked, we got relatively like peaceful, pleasant answers. Like, we're okay, he's okay, everything's okay, like blah, blah, blah. You know, didn't suffer, you know, all this kind of stuff. And then something changed again. And I don't know exactly, I'm having a hard time remembering exactly what changed, but the movements changed, and like literally like the fucking temperature in the room seemed to change. And then all of a sudden,
Cold or hot?
I feel like
the air changed. And it's more, I've always equated it with more of a heaviness.
Okay.
Like the weight in the room changed.
So it's almost like a humidity without the stickiness and the heat. Is almost
or
just
like
you
an
can
electrical
feel it.
storm.
Yes, like the
can feel
air
it.
has a feeling. Like the air has a charge,
Yeah.
a weight.
Now, did Tommy say anything before that? Like someone's coming, or did it look
David,
just like
I think the kid was David.
Sorry,
Yeah.
did David say like someone's coming, or did David just drop like that?
I feel
and
like
then all of a
David
sudden someone
straight
else?
up dropped out.
I feel like David did drop.
Or
and
or was there something like I have to go now? I don't know. There was definitely at some point something like I'm afraid, or no, or there was
the
like
box.
a box. Yeah, oh god,
The box.
There was in a box. David was in a box or something.
Yes.
God, I wish you guys. We just for those of you listening, please like picture as best as you can. Fucking Spencer's face just
Wish
sank
that you
at
could
that.
see
Yeah.
Yeah,
the-
I wish we had cameras for this episode.
goosebumps on my arms right now.
Yes, thank you
When-
for that too, because the listeners can't see us here. And like this,
Yeah.
I know how this feels, but if you
It's the
describe-
biggest
So
travesty.
David said he was in a box.
or was having to go back to the box, or
I was
had
afraid of the box.
afraid of being like something was coming.
So that makes me seem like this David was used as a pawn to pull you guys in, and then this whatever.
Well, I don't even know. I feel like I don't feel like David was at fault. And I still don't to this day. I feel like David was just sort of there when we broke through.
Well, sure, but I mean that could still be like what you mean. Like
could have been bait.
David is
Yeah.
used as bait.
Bait,
and
sure.
he doesn't know it. Sure.
Sure.
to
And-
get a stronger connection. So this
Absolutely,
thing
maybe to connect to a bunch
Sure.
of kids sitting around.
Yeah. And it totally was fascinating until it changed, and then everything got really dark. And then, this is hard to explain, but we were talking to something else. And I don't know how to necessarily quantify that for you, but it just was different. The cursor felt different. Like you
Yeah.
said, the air in the room was different. The movements were jerkier and faster.
Angry.
Angry, and
Sure.
it was weird, and all of a sudden the thing started to sort of like threaten us. Like all of a sudden it wasn't like real peaceful anymore. It was like, something was different, and the answers were extremely dark and but like, is this still David? No. Where is David? Gone.
Shit.
I think this is, if I'm remembering right, I think this is when the box came to play. We asked where was David, and I want to say it said in the box.
In a box, yeah.
in a box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I think it just said a box.
Which was terrifying because up to this point, this spirit of this kid was super like friendly and nice and whatever, and just like so already it's like this horrific imagery.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, this is just 4 kids sitting in the living room still, daylight out, sunlight coming through the curtains, moving this cursor. But now it's kind of literally jerking our hands around the board, and we were sort of like, this is getting fucking weird. And it
Yeah.
started to feel weird. And to me, I'll never forget this. Instantly, even though it was broad daylight outside, it felt like literally looked like somebody just turned the brightness down
Yeah.
on everything. The entire room, the outside, inside, it literally like my entire life just like got dark.
It was like a dark cloud rolled in through the sun, but there was clear skies outside.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Everything just got super dark. It was fucking weird. And we kept that up for a little bit. We kept asking some questions. And at some point we stopped right around this time.
We did. We stopped. Golly, and I wish I could remember what it was that made us stop.
I think somebody had to go, or we just got sick of it. I know we stopped. For whatever reason, again, this has been 30 fucking years. Like, at some point we stopped, and we put it away. And I was like, dude, that was fucking weird. Like, didn't get a band name. Maybe talk to a demon. What the fuck, Like,
Yeah.
and then everybody had to kind of go their separate ways. Everybody had to go home
Yep.
and do this and blah, blah, blah. And then for like the next 6 to 8 hours, everybody's life was so fucked up. I will say, me personally, like I had this horrible knockdown, drag-out fight with my parents. Like, I don't know what it was. It was triggered over nothing. They looked at me like I wasn't even their kid. I mean, it was fucking weird. And just had a horrible, horrible day. And I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but it felt like it was tied to it. It all felt like it was part of something, And then you did you not almost get run down by a car?
I did. I was so I had rode my bike up to Spence's house for this, and was riding my bike. We lived in the same neighborhood, riding my bike back down the street, and almost got ran over by a car Just a big car just flying through the neighborhood that I had never really seen before. But I mean, that happens. That's not necessarily anything crazy.
But it was.
But it felt wrong.
We knew every single person in the neighborhood and every car that drove through the neighborhood almost always. You knew it was going to someplace or someplace. This was just completely different, and the person was just speeding through the neighborhood for no reason. And it wasn't like a neighborhood where you go through it to get somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's nowhere. There are no outlets really through that neighborhood.
I would like to say, like, sorry to interrupt, but just
Sure.
with you guys talking about this, and I think it only is going to lend credence to how honest you're being with qualifying everything. But for you guys listening, everyone knows that human beings have a sixth sense. You can decide what it is. That's where a lot of arguments happen. But we all know when shit's different and weird. So just put yourself in whatever place you need to be to recognize that they're not fucking with you talking about this.
It was definitely
the
fucking
car
weird.
being
And then
weird.
the other guys, John had something terrible happen. And again,
I think with his mom.
something happened with his mom. He lived in the neighborhood too. We were all like walking distance. Now the other guys, Jeremy and Jason, had to drive to get over there, and Jeremy had a car, and so he would drive he and Jason around. They were kind of like a team, and they hung out with us. But and then in Jeremy's case, he like went home and had this horrible thing. His parents literally kicked him out of the house, and he had to pack his shit that night and like go stay with Jason, and he picked him up, and like anyway. We all got back together about 6 to 8 hours later at my house or my parents' house, you know, and I kind of had a little room just off that. It was a garage that had been converted into like a den, and then later as I became a teenager, I kind of wanted my own space, and they converted it to my room on the end of the house. You had an outside entrance.
Yep.
So that's where we all met up later, and we were just like, really just kind of going, God, dude, what the fuck is going on? Like all of our lives are falling apart. Like it was just like, we were just sort of like communing with each other, you know. And then I don't think it was me. I don't know if it was you, Joe. Somebody goes, fucking the Ouija board. That fucking Ouija board. That's the only thing that we all had in common today that before our lives all spun out of control, you know.
You know what's funny is I don't remember that either. I know it wasn't me. I don't remember it being me. And I'm not actually sure to this day because I don't remember who it was.
Sure.
But someone must have said it, but I think when they said it, I know I did, and I know other people seemed like they did. Maybe that just felt like the answer.
Yeah, we just knew. It was weird. You just knew, like, the minute we thought of it, just you felt it's crazy. It's hard. Again, now that I'm hearing this, and I'm going to have to go back and hear this later when I edit it, I'm realizing how much of this is just like leaps of faith. But I'm here to tell you, man, you've got to believe that you just knew. You just had this feeling that this stuff was connected.
Well, the stuff that happens later, Lynn's, is
That's
quite
the real,
a bit.
That's the real big part of the story, and we'll try to move a little quicker towards that stuff. But again, this is all 100% true, and possibly a little disturbing. And I'm telling everybody right now, I wish you a happy Halloween. I think you're great. Please listen to every episode of Beacon House. But if you're not real comfortable with where you stand on the afterlife, or possibly things outside of reality, you might not want to continue. This might be a good stopping point right here, okay?
And then after this, no more disclaimers. Both of you, quit it. That's like the third disclaimer you fuckers have had for this story. We're aware.
One more disclaimer. Casey doesn't give a fuck what happens to you after this. So anyway, but anyway, somebody brought that up. Maybe it was the Ouija board. We were all fucking with it earlier, and it did get a little weird. It got a little dark. And the newcomer to the thing, I think, was Jason. I think Jason maybe wasn't there. Maybe John and Jeremy were there to begin with. But there was somebody that hadn't been there earlier in the day. That he was there now. And he said...
I think you're actually absolutely right, because Jason never actually participated.
He never touched it.
Right.
He just sat with us while we did it.
Right.
And Jason, for the record, was an atheist. You know, he was like, he didn't believe in anything. He was like, it's all chaos. This is all an accident. But he was into horror movies and fun stuff. And he said, and he was like, holy shit, I hear, and he had friends that were like Wiccans and, you know, stuff like that. And he goes, dude, if you start that, you can't just stop. And we, what are you talking about? He goes, you can't just quit. You've opened a thing. You've got to finish it. And
I've always equated that to kind of like playing a video game, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you fire up Super Mario Brothers, you got to get to the end.
You
right?
got to finish it, dude. But that was the last fucking thing we wanted to hear. And at this point is when I started to feel like actual fear. Because, like, what else is going to happen, you know? And so, for whatever reason, we all decide that our lives are fucked up because we started this thing and we didn't finish it. We just put it away and kind of let whatever circumstances run wild. And we go get the fucking board. We all dude, and we really like fucking Stranger Things did. I mean, we fucking put candles up and shit, and we were ready to get spooky. And we kind of got our chest up a little bit. We got a little brave. Like, fuck you, demon, let's do this.
On the other side of the board, the demon's like, oh yeah. I'll fuck you all right.
In hindsight, terrible idea. But we were young, and we were just like, fuck it, let's see what happens, you know? And so we all got the board back out. We sat with it on our knees again. And this time, Jason was sort of curled up on like a little seat near us. He didn't actually touch it. So it's Joe, myself, Jeremy, and John.
Yep.
Okay? But at any rate, we went and got a cross. The only thing we could find was like a little costume jewelry cross that had hung on a necklace. It wasn't like fancy, but it was silver. And we just brought it to the room just in case. We wouldn't know. We only knew what we'd seen in like vampire movies. But we figured if something gets after us, at least maybe we could hold this up or something. We didn't know. We didn't fucking know. So we brought a little B cross, okay? And that's important later. But we sat it down next to us. We start. And what do you remember from when we started
The
over?
only thing that I really just to put this into perspective, there's a lot of like all of these little individual major things that happen through this are very memorable.
Yes.
But this whole time period is kind of surrounded in a fog.
This
right?
whole 24-hour period
like,
was fucking weird.
It's kind of surrounded in a fog. Like there's part of that is because you go through some really traumatic shit like that.
Yeah.
And it's almost like your brain says, wait the fuck up, hold the fuck up. No, we're not going to process this.
That's true.
Like, but what I do remember is when we really got started back, there was no slowdown and there was no ramping up period. It was 0 to 60.
Yep. I'm 100%. And the thing was shitty. Straight out. There was no kid. Like we thought, let's ask for David. You know, no.
Once you sat down, put the board on your knees. Was it back on the knees or was it on a table this
Knees.
time?
It was
On
touching.
the knees.
We all sat cross-legged in sort of like a circle.
I'm not sure where we had heard this,
No.
but at some point one of us had heard that that's how you had to do this.
But you
Okay.
needed full contact with the board, and you needed, everybody was just
No.
saying, I heard this, I heard that, I heard you're
No.
supposed to do this. And
When you started back up, what was the first thing it did? Because you said it went from 0 to 60. Like,
it went fast.
Just quick movement,
Quick
like
movement?
just fast.
I didn't know if it
And
said
just
something right off the bat that.
just being pulled, right?
Yeah.
So
What's weird is most of the time it doesn't necessarily talk. Sometimes it would rapidly go to the corner of the board, and it would drag all four of us across the board. Like your hands would go shooting across the board. Like, and this is the point when you knew nobody was faking it. I mean, you knew that nobody was like dragging it because it was at such a weird angle that they couldn't have possibly.
Well, even the speed, like somebody would have been flung off if you guys weren't.
Well,
attached.
we
I was
just
going to say,
touching a
and not just that
piece of
but
cardboard.
Someone's not pulling your arm
Yeah.
to go
Yeah.
along, right?
Dude, it would go real drastically. It was still kind of a figure eight, but it would go real drastically to the corner of the board and almost like turn you over.
No, I know it's been a while, but do you remember the first question you asked the second time around? Round
I
2?
don't. Maybe we said, "Where's David?" We started.
I
Asking,
do want to say it was something about David, about trying to get David.
Yeah.
And I do know this, that once we were not talking to David anymore, every time we asked about David, it would say something about in a box or in box or in the box or in a box.
That's true. And so we just started asking a lot of questions. And the thing was extremely threatening. It was like, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to do all this terrible stuff. Like, you basically told us you're fucked now. And we were sort of like, all that anybody knew is you had to sort of like, somebody said that there's a lot of demons. And if you contact one through a portal, you've got to get to the next one. And the next one. And this is a very video game type of like the boss level kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And the only way to graduate them is to ask if they give you permission to go to the next one. And then they lie to you. They pretend to be all this stuff. Sometimes they'll pretend to be the next one and they're not. Again, this was all just stuff people had heard. We were flying blind, man. We had no idea what we were doing. But we kept asking, we need to go to the next guy. We need to go to the next guy. And then finally at some point somebody goes, like, who's the big guy down there? Knowing
Right.
it's got to be Satan or something like that. And it gave us letters. And I'm sorry.
Series of letters.
Series of letters, and I'm sorry to say I'm not going to tell you what they are.
Per my request, if you want to shit on anyone in the comments.
But it did not spell a word, at least that I know of. But I will tell you this: later, we told a friend of ours, whose name starts with a D. He's still on Facebook, and he said, "What are those letters again?" And I wrote them down. And he goes, "I'm going to go ask. I've got a friend. She like dabbles in witchcraft. I'm going to see if she knows anything about it." He took it to her. And he went over, they were good friends too. He went to her house and showed her the letters, and she said, please leave. And she never spoke to him again. She ended their friendship immediately on the spot. So she knew something about him, and we still don't know.
We don't know. We lots of speculation over the years of what we thought maybe they could mean.
That's true. But nobody ever found out.
No real concrete anything.
It's probably a good thing. Honestly.
And I've said them out loud like this week. And
I've said them out loud many times.
So,
but it's just better maybe for people not to go digging in something they don't need to.
That's true. That's
Too late.
That's 100% true. So anyway, we're basically, so now things are getting real, real hairy. And a lot of shit is starting to happen in the room. This is where it starts to really pick up, okay? Mm-hmm. For starters, there's all kinds of crazy shadows darting across the wall. And let me explain this, too. We're in the middle of a room, and we've got candles around us on various tables and stuff like that. So the perimeter of the room, if you understand how a shadow works, there has to be a light source and a pane. Mm-hmm. So that'd be like a candle and the wall. And something has to move between them to cast a shadow, okay? If you just put a light in the room and nothing goes behind it, you're not going to get a shadow. So what was happening now all around us is, for starters, there was no wind, there were no fans, and the candles were flickering like crazy, as if things were moving past them really fast. Yeah. And shadows were darting all across the walls in every single direction. All four walls had giant, crazy shadows running across them when nothing was passing through the candles. So that's the first thing in the room that we saw.
Real quick, before you continue.
Yeah.
Another disclaimer. No, I'm just kidding. I was trying to see if I could find the 6 letters. I can't. But I did find 5 signs your Ouija board session has gone horribly wrong.
5 letters.
5 letters?
I misspoke, possibly.
It is 5.
5 signs your Ouija board session has gone horribly wrong. First of all, first thing, caught me off guard. The planchette moves through alphabet or numbers, hits the corners, or makes a figure 8. Oh, your planchette flies or falls. Time goes missing. Terror strikes beyond the board, and Zozo makes an appearance. Z-O. It could also be Z-A, Z-A, M-A, M-A, or any combination of all of these 12 letters.
The Zoso had nothing to... I will say this, it was not Zoso. I remember that from the Led Zeppelin record. It had nothing to do with that. These are a bunch of other consonants, and actually none of them were Z-O, S-O, or anything. But everything else you just said totally happened. I think we've already talked about it, most of it. So now we're in the room, cursors flying all over the place.
Shadows on the walls.
Shadows on the walls where there's nothing to cast them. Yeah. And they're moving, too. You could see shapes.
I was going to say, even if there was something that, with the candlelight flickering, if it's moving, then it's not the same as something
now
else.
At this point, Jason, the one guy not touching the board, is fucking petrified because he's in the room with us and he's just looking around at all this shit happening. And we're at the point where we realize, at that point, it's the first time I thought, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
It was the, especially at that point in life, and it really even going forwards, absolutely the scariest part of my life. Scariest moment of my life.
Yep.
There was a feeling of dread that you can't really explain, of not knowing what was going to happen next and not knowing how you're going to get out of what's currently happening.
Like, I imagine that's what it would feel if you got dropped in, like, the middle of a war and you knew that there was a 50-50 chance you were going to get killed any second, but you just had to keep trying. And there's not a whole lot of reasoning you do. And that's kind of how we felt. So anyway, again, trying to kind of move, I'm kind of watching the time here, and I know it's terrible to do that during a story like this, but moving forward, so now, what was the next thing? Before something crazy happens, it started to tell us it was going to do shit to us.
Yeah.
If we didn't, like, quit asking. Like, it's going to fucking do stuff. And at one point, this is the first thing I remember, it said it was going to shoot someone.
Yes. So...
Like, it said, I'm going to hurt you. Or it said, I'm going to hurt somebody you know, or I'm going to hurt you. And then we said, how? And it went G-U-N. And the minute it landed on N, Joe, tell them what happened.
So, it's goosebumps.
This is fucking true, man. This is fucking true.
The moment that it stopped on the letter N, the phone rings.
Phone rings in the kitchen.
So
and this is old school phone hanging on the wall with super long cord because you had to be able to walk all over, no wireless.
Yeah.
And I was fucking phone ring. And this was starting to get kind of late at night. And I didn't want it to wake up my parents, okay? So, like, I run to get the phone, okay? And I answer the phone. I go, guys, I'll be right back. I'm going to get the phone. Hello? Who's calling so late? And it was my girlfriend at the time. Her name started with a J.
Yes, it did.
Shit.
My girlfriend at the time, and she said, Colby's been shot. A mutual friend of ours was shot. Literally the minute it landed on N, phone rang, guy's been shot that we go to school with. and she was just like screaming on the phone. That's true. Everybody saw it, and at that point we knew like we're fucked. We're in deep fucking shit.
Yeah.
Deep shit. And I'm now going back, I realized that had to have happened before it told us in order for the news to get
Had
around.
to have, right?
Yeah.
So there's a continuity issue there, but literally we saw ringing phone, screaming girlfriend, guy got shot. And we talked it down we take a break. We talk, is it going to be okay? Is he at the hospital? He's not dead. He's at the hospital. Okay, great. We go back to it.
So to kind of put this from my point of view, when all of this is happening, it's almost like time stops. And it's the weirdest thing. And I even, to it, just kind of thinking about it and going back in time, even when we stopped messing with it the first time and we all went our separate ways, it's almost like time stops and stands still until you come back to doing what you're supposed to be doing, which is fucking around with whatever it is we were talking to.
That's true. 100%. And we eventually got back to it somehow. Like, we got off the phone with her, and we were super freaked out. We took a lot of breaks. We were like, this is fucking crazy, dude. It's like, oh my God. We took some breaks. We get back to it. And it started to indicate that it was going to hurt us by hurting people that we were associated with. Like, It's going to hurt us, but it's going to hurt us by hurting people we love. And we kept getting all that. And then there was a lot of weird things. It was just hard to explain, but we talked to a bunch of different stuff. And each thing acted differently, felt differently. The cursor moved differently. The air in the room changed a little bit. Some things were less pleasant than others, but there were just a lot. And I believe they were demons. But
I do want to add this into that as we were talking to every individual thing that we were talking to, the one thing that every one of those had in common was the fear
of the five letters.
Said 5 letters.
Said 5 letters, yeah. Everything on that side of the board answers to that thing.
So you guys would like mention these letters or something?
We would say who's next, or who do we have to go to for who do we have to go to end this? And it would go, oh, you're going to talk to blah blah.
And see,
blah.
that's so weird because that's the, from my understanding, Zozo is the demon that controls the board.
I don't know. Maybe this is it by a different name, but it was 5 different letters.
Well, I know. I mean, demons go by several different names usually.
I mean, I guess I'm
I
not
think
a biblical
Satan has
scholar.
like 6.
Maybe, but this didn't make a word. This was all consonants. These are 5 consonants.
Yeah.
It might have stood for some. I don't know. I don't know if demons fucking use acronyms. Like, the demon phonics book
I still find it interesting. That
sold out on Amazon right now.
I still find it interesting that your friend took it to his friend that's like with the occult and like follows that kind of shit. She was just like, get out.
She was like, never come here again.
That blows my mind.
We
Yeah,
did,
that's one
by
of
the
the
way, we
creepiest
didn't find
fucking
that
things.
out. We found that out after the fact. That we found that out like a week later.
Yeah.
When we told some friends what had happened to us. So moving along with the theme where it says, I'm going to hurt people that you care about. At some point during that, all of a sudden my mom starts screaming in the other room down the hallway.
Fuck.
Screaming bloody murder. She's on the telephone. She's on the phone with her friend, who's a friend of mine too, this guy named Gordon. Mm-hmm. Gordon was a hairdresser that worked with her. And literally at that exact moment, his brother had turned up dead. And he apparently drank himself to death, possibly in Market Square. I don't know wherever, but the guy was he was an alcoholic. He was probably a wino or something like that, and they had found him dead. He called my mom, and like she was screaming on the phone, and like the guy went to pieces, and he was never the same after that.
No.
So we paused, like we had to go fucking help them. I mean, it was just crazy fucking stuff was happening. And then again, fast forward, we get back to it.
Yeah.
And at this point, we're pretty sure that this is either never going to end or it's only going to keep getting worse or we're going to die. I mean, we didn't know, but we knew that if we walk away from it, we're fucked.
You also, at this point, and I'm not sure if this was before that or after that, but if you remember, there were the death days.
Later, it said it was going to kill all of us, and it told us a certain day. And I'll go ahead and reveal what that was. The death date was February 29th. And we were like,
Yep.
There's only fucking 28 days in February, but it told us the year, and we looked. I'm not going to tell everybody who it was, but we looked ahead, and it turns out in the future, that year was leap year.
Sure. So it knew that.
I'm
That's
assuming the
fucking
year's
weird.
already gone.
It's already gone. We made it. But we called each other that day.
We did.
We'd maybe not hung out for a minute or so, or he'd moved, or we were just doing different things at the time, but like on that day, Like I woke up and I was like, oh fuck, should I leave the house today? I don't know. But again, the ending, this has kind of a positive ending. It's a terrible story, but with a kind of a positive ending. The positive ending is that it turns out, well, let's wait.
Yeah, get there.
Put it this way,
Yeah.
we weren't, when that day finally rolled around, we weren't afraid. Okay? But, so anyway, keeps going. The next crazy thing I remember, and occasionally the thing would start to get super violent. The candles would get super violent. You feel like maybe you're in danger, and we would put the cross on the board. We just throw it down on the board, and everything would stop. The minute you put the cross on the board, everything would stop. And I'm not about to take up a collection here. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm
Let
not.
me put my hat back down.
All I'm saying is, it would stop from the cross, and everything on that side of the board, including the 5-letter thing, was afraid of the cross.
And I will tell you this, and it wasn't just the board that stopped. The room felt better.
Yeah,
Not all better,
Yeah.
but better.
but better than it was.
Right.
Like things were there but kept at bay.
Right.
Yeah.
So if that's any consolation, like if you do think you're going to go mess with the Ouija board or whatever, take a fucking cross, man. Seriously, whether you believe or not, like just do it. Because we had several guys in the room that were glad to have it that weren't sure they believed in Christianity. Mm-hmm. Okay, but it made a big difference. So then I think we threw the cross on the board a couple times, pissed them off, or who, whatever. And this thing happens, and this is still one of the most fucking riveting parts of it to me. Okay, this thing falls out of midair, right in between all 4 of us. Okay, nobody's hands are up. Everybody can see their hands. Like, we could see each other very clearly. Something falls straight out of midair, right to the middle of the board, and just sticks.
And it wasn't Jason sitting outside the circle that
No,
did it?
Jay, we could see Jay. He was up with us. He was very close
okay.
to us. But
And I will say, just at this point in his life, Jason was a crying mess just about.
yeah, he was a man. And he had his hands like this. He wasn't tossing stuff. He
Gotcha.
wasn't being a jokester. I mean, a thing literally fell. And the thing was, it didn't come from, I mean, we literally just like could see it. It wasn't there, and then it was there, and it fell straight to the middle of the board. We all felt it hit.
So, yeah, Spencer talked about this right before we recorded, just for a visual. Like you said, there was no sliding or rolling. It just like it
And
weighed
the board
a
was
ton.
definitely
It just-
not level. The board was
slapped
not
right
level
down.
at
This is
all.
horrible for visuals because you guys listening to this can't see it, but if you drop a solid object onto another solid object,
There's a little bit of movement.
It's going to bounce.
there's a bit of movement,
Yeah,
right?
this did not. And
Joe
how big
dropped
was
the lighter.
it?
It was tiny. It wasn't big. It was a little rock.
Like a dime?
No, smaller than.
I
a
don't.
dime.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say maybe half of a dime.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. You know, like maybe some of those decorative stones you see in fish tanks.
Yeah.
You know, like maybe like that,
like
those,
sci-fi movie magnetism.
like the
just
rocks,
stunk.
like the colored rocks and stuff.
Yeah.
like that. Except it was, I don't know. It's not bright red. It was like crimson red. It looked like blood.
And coarse.
Yes, very
Ugh.
coarse. It landed right in the, and it smelled bad. And did I pick it up? I think
It was you that picked
I
it
go,
up first.
"Oh."
At some point, we all handled it.
It's true. What is this? I picked it up to look at it, and as soon as I picked it up, it felt weird. Really weird. The thing in the board, we start asking questions again. The thing in the board tells us it's brimstone. It tells us that's a piece of hell.
oh shit.
Materialized in our world out of thin air to show us who's fucking boss. I'm holding this fucking thing in my hand. This really happened.
Mm-hmm.
We set it aside
Sure.
and continue. Everybody felt weird from touching it. And we pass it around. Everybody looked at it. Jason didn't want anything to do with it. He was already like a mess.
Mm-hmm.
We put the fucking brimstone aside. We keep going.
So, just to put this out there, this is the one thing that people that I've talked to struggle with the most, right? The most terrifying part of the entire experience, right? To have something not be there and then be there.
Right.
It's almost impossible to wrap your mind around that, of the just how that can happen. If I had not lived through this, I would tell you it can't.
Yeah, of course. Of course. I mean, and it was like eye level when it appeared. The board was down here, where eye level. It just appeared, bloop, and then boom, and stuck. And then we all fucking handled it like idiots, you know. But like, so there's that. Anyway, to kind of jump ahead a little bit here, fucking. At this point, we're trying to do the right thing. Everybody's a fucking mess. The fucking candles are going. It's crazy. There's shadows. All this stuff. We feel like we're about to die any moment. We feel like we screwed surely the lives of everybody that we know and our future. And like this was a huge mistake. How do we get out of this? And we get to the point where whatever we're talking to is just throwing us all over the fucking board.
And it's so vile and just the air. What I try to say, and it's so hard to understand this. When I say the air is different and the air is heavy and the air is this and that, and the feel in the room is this or that, with each thing that we spoke with, it was just worse.
Yes, it got worse and worse and worse.
Just worse and worse and worse over time, almost to a point to where you just can't stand it anymore.
Dude, there was one other thing, too. And we kept checking it. We kept asking it things that, like, the other guys wouldn't have known. Like, we kept reality checking this whole experience.
Yeah.
And at one point, this is one of the scariest things, John, a guy that was with us named John, had slipped the cross off of the table near us and hidden it in his sock and didn't tell any of us. And at some point, John, we're trying to legitimize whatever we're talking to. John goes, all right, if you're so smart, if you're so powerful, which one of us has the cross? And I'm thinking none of us do. It's sitting over there on the thing. And literally the minute he asked it that, the cursor almost shot off the board.
Like almost into his lap.
Into his like stomach towards him. And it drug us with it. And I was like, well, wait a minute. I took my hands off. I was like, hang on a sec. Nobody has the cross. The cross is over there. And John, at this point, had scooted back from the board. And he goes, no, dude, I put it in my sock when you guys were looking. And he pulls it out of his sock. So the fucking thing knew where the cross was. I was just like, oh, we're screwed now. Bad.
Yeah.
But at any point, we sort of ran out of luck. I feel like at some point, we realized we're not going to get to the end. We're not going to...
Or do you want to even?
Do you want to, yeah. Exactly. And so, again, somebody, maybe Jason or somebody goes, you have to destroy it. The only way to stop this is to destroy the board. That's sort of the portal, you know. And as crazy as that sounds, I mean, I'm like a fucking 45-year-old dude saying this, but that's what happened. That is fucking what happened. And so we decide we're going to fucking burn it to get rid of it. We're going to burn it to ash, okay? And this is where things start to get really fucking nuts in terms of like physical stuff. So there was a little concrete, I wouldn't even hard call it.
Kind of a little stoop.
A little stoop out of, I said the room that we had lived in had an external exit. So you can go out into the yard and to the neighborhood, okay? And there was a little concrete pad kind of right outside the door. And we were like, we can burn it out there. It won't burn in the grass because grass is damp. You know, like we've got to burn it on this concrete. We go, okay. So we fucking take it. We take the board and the box, like all the pieces we have, take them outside. And the first weird thing that happened is we tried to break the board in half. Now, this is a super old board. This is not even Parker Brothers. This
isn't cardboard.
This is dry,
wood.
nasty, like press board, almost like particle board. It should have snapped just like a cracker. And my friend John, the one who put the cross in his sock, stands on it. He's got like big work boots. He had big brown boots. He stood on it and reached to grab the other end to break it, and it curled up like a fruit roll-up.
Oh, shit.
So the total physics on the thing changed. It just became completely malleable. It became like rubber, even though a minute ago it was stiff. So we get to where it won't break. We can't break it. We try. All of us try. We bend it. We crease it. We do everything we fucking... It won't break. Piece of thin, nasty press board won't break. Finally, we wind up kind of like bending it and standing it up. Almost like a sheet of paper. Imagine you're about to make a paper airplane. Think of like they bend it and stand it up. And now it won't light.
Will not burn.
Will not burn. No matter what we do. So we go get kerosene. We put kerosene on it. And it still won't burn. And we keep at it and keep at it and keep at it. And finally, the kerosene, we put so much kerosene on it, it caught on fire on the outside. So then it starts burning. And then, what do you remember?
When it's burning, there's a few things here. And this whole experience that we had, you could kind of throw physics out the window.
5 people fucking stood around and saw this. 5 fucking people saw this.
So when it catches and it starts burning, there's a few things happen. One, screams.
Screams come from inside of it.
If we were to stand here in this room and have what could have been 30, 40 different voices screaming all at once, that's what we heard.
Yeah.
And it was actual screams, not just like a hissing or like a whining noise from like...
They were real screams, but they did sound extremely hissy. They sounded a lot like the... oh my God, what's the...
I know sometimes you get like air caught in wood and it makes noises.
I mean, this.
And I'm not trying to discredit you.
No.
I'm asking questions that I think people who are listening are going to ask.
Yeah.
Originally, we thought maybe there's some. No, I mean, it was horrible, gut wrenching, awful. It sounded a lot like
You're talking about the
Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Holy fuck.
That's what it sounded like.
Yes.
That's exactly what it sounded like when they overlaid like 30 voices to make her scream.
Yeah.
And people commented, "Oh man, she's got a great metal scream." That's what it fucking sounded like. Was the Exorcism of Emily Rose? In fact, years later.
Oh wow, good call. I never really put that together. But that's exactly it.
Years later, when I saw Exorcism of Emily Rose, the sound of her scream was the most impressive thing to me because I had already heard it back when this happened.
Yeah.
So dead accurate. I don't know if that was an accident or not, but that's real. That's what it sounded like.
Okay.
And then also the fire coming up.
Columns.
Two columns of fire.
2 columns.
Spinning in opposite directions. So think about that. They looked like horns. They were coming up probably 3 foot high or whatever off the board, which is already standing about 2 feet high or whatever. So this is like a 5-foot spire, 2 different columns of fire, and they were spinning circular, but in opposite directions.
Say if you had this fan here that's blowing, if it's blowing a flame, they're both going to spin just like this.
Same way.
Right?
Or the opposite, but they were going opposite directions.
Just like this.
Holy shit.
And pointy and violent. Like you had to see the fire. The fire was scary as fuck.
Like it looked animated kind of thing.
It looked fucking like.
I mean, obviously real, but just like to describe it,
it was
looked designed
awful.
and yeah.
And then this to me is the craziest part. Stuff started oozing
goo,
out.
like
black goo started oozing out of the board.
Which is interesting because, like you said, it's not like if it was a Parker Brothers one that was like had a bunch of chemical like painted onto it to make it shine and stuff like that. But you said this was just wood and it's oozing.
Right. It was like press board, like particle board. It wasn't even sturdy wood. It was like a piece of shit board.
Yeah.
And
but there's nothing in particle board that would ooze. So
Absolutely.
that's
no, and even
weird.
if there was a little bit of ink or a little bit of glue, it would have been tiny. This was big globs of fucking black goo oozing out, and it split at little lines all the way across. And it just started oozing down. It was fucking horrible.
Yeah.
And at that point, we still didn't know that we were going to be okay or not. But we were holding the cross, and we had scooped up the little, which I guess is a piece of brimstone.
Yep.
We'd scooped that up, and we stayed at it. We kept pouring kerosene on it.
And burned and burned and burned forever.
Took forever. And finally, when most of it was gone, we dug a hole, buried it.
Yep.
And we threw the brimstone in there, put the cross in there. I forgot about the cross.
Yep.
Until you showed up today and mentioned that we laid the cross on top of it and we buried it.
I'm assuming the handmade planchette that you guys made burned pretty quickly.
I feel like the box burned okay. I don't remember
anything about the box.
The board was the weird shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
You buried it. Did everything stop? Or did
Not really.
Okay.
Not everything went back to normal. For starters, we were fucking psychologically scarred
Yeah.
from it. Joe and I turned out sort of okay. Things got better. I think Jeremy got to go back home. Everybody's life sort of returned to normal a little bit. But Jason, who was kind of decided things like this didn't exist, he had a really hard time with it.
Yeah.
And he missed a little bit of school over it, and I think he had to maybe seek a little therapy. And in a couple of weeks, in a month, we went back to being kids.
Yeah.
Just like you always do, and just like you see in the movies. Like, eventually things go back to
Well,
normal.
and it's, the good thing about it being us being that age, really, is, my God, kids are resilient, right?
Yeah.
So
If something like that happened to me now, I think it'd probably kill me.
It may very well.
I don't think I would live through it today. But that's pretty much it. There is a kind of an epilogue. So that house we lived in is in West Knoxville.
Yep.
I'm not going to tell anyone the address where it's buried, but it's in West Knoxville. I'll give you a little bit more. It's off Middlebrook Pike, technically in Cedar Bluff area. But we moved out of there and moved to an apartment a little while after that. And I had told people this story. And we were in the room with different John.
Yep.
And my friend Todd that I played in a band with at the time. And I pulled this box out of the closet. And it was super fucking heavy. And I was like, what is this, fucking books or something, And I set the box. He goes, open that up, see what's in it. And I was like, fuck, I can't imagine what this is. I thought we loaded all the books. I don't have that many books. Cut it open. There's nothing. It's a cardboard box. Mm-hmm. Nothing in the box except the original cursor, which weighs like less than a Coke can. with the needle and everything. Plastic. It's made out of plastic. And it's a little window with the needle. And I go, holy shit, it's the cursor. It's the cursor from the Ouija board. And they were like, no way, dude, no way. I pick it up, and I touch the needle. It fucking made my finger bleed. Just a little bit. And it was old. It shouldn't have been sharp.
Yeah.
And I remember and I handed it. The guys like, let's see it. And they touched it. Everybody got sick. We all got the flu. And then, but I threw it away. I threw it in the dumpster. I don't know whatever happened to it after that.
There's no telling. Somebody found it and had a sequel, possibly.
Possibly.
God
But
forbid.
that was 4 years later, 5 years later. Just randomly, this box came out of the closet.
I want to say, what was it? I think we talked about it remotely soon after that. I think you guys might have been looking for some comic books or something.
Maybe.
Seems to be what I remember. I can't remember all totally, but
There was a lot of shit, but that really happened to all of us. And now listen to us talk about it. Sounds like the story of It or something, you know,
Yeah.
like kids, like fucking. But that really fucking did happen to us, and I can't explain any of it. I really can't. But I believe it all was 100% real, and I do recall seeing it with my own eyes. And I will say that the maybe the silver lining to it is that if you have faith in something, you don't have to be afraid of shit like that. Like, you can win, and you don't necessarily have to be a victim of stuff like that. And when that day came around that told us we were all going to die, we didn't.
absolutely.
And I think if there's a message from all this, it's that you're still in charge of your own destiny, and that other forces can't, I don't know, ruin your life. But it's best not to go messing with certain things.
I think the message is don't fuck with a Ouija board.
That's been my message.
If that's what you take from this, then yes, please take that.
Yeah, whoever's up there in where's the fucking giant one?
Salem.
Yeah, get the fuck out of there, people.
Yeah, don't walk on it.
Since you guys mentioned, I came down here the other day and I brought something with me. No, I'm just kidding. Spencer immediately sat straight up.
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
about
yeah.
to walk out of this room.
No, dude.
I wish we had cameras again so you guys could see what Spencer's normally like and everything else. I've never seen you look more uncomfortable talking, and when Joe's talking, the way you're like covering your mouth and your eyes were darting back and forth. Spencer looks
crazy.
fucking...
That's the story. I don't think I'm ever going to tell it again. I think if people ask about it, I'm just going to go on iTunes.
Yeah, I think I'm done with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
The
probably
last time
enough.
you needed to tell it was the time you recorded it.
Yeah.
So we finally, and a lot of people have said, shout out to Travis Stevens at Riot Printing. Like, Travis has often said he loved this story and that we need at some point to record it or make a videotape of it or something. But this is, Travis, if you're listening, man, this one's for you and anybody else that heard this story or who was just curious. A lot of people go, wait, I hear you have this story. And I go, not now.
Somewhere
Not right now.
Somewhere right now in the distant future, James Wan is listening to this, writing a new script.
Yeah.
And cutting a royalty check for you guys.
James Wan, call me.
Yeah. Yeah, we would potentially tell it one more time for the
Maybe one more time.
Yeah, maybe for the right amount of money. So anyway, I hope that didn't mess anybody. Or again, either I don't know what the reactions to this are going to be. Either you thought we were stupid as fuck, and this is dumb, and like I've seen a better horror movie than that, or you believe it 100%, and you're just like, "Ooh, I'm glad I'm safe," or this kind of messed you up a little bit.
I will tell you this. This is one of the cool things that happened, right? Because there are silver linings from experiences like this. We live through it, we grow stronger. The big reason, like, I love going to haunted attractions, like real, true haunted houses and haunted places and scary movies and all of that stuff, because none of that is fucking scary.
Yep,
I've lived it.
nothing's
Right?
scary anymore.
It's nothing is scarier
like-
than what we've already been through.
Nothing except danger. Like if I'm in a car and it starts to spin out of control and I might get hurt, I'm scared of
Absolutely.
that. But like as far as like ghosts and scary, like nothing scares you anymore. Like when you've seen this kind of shit, it's just like, whoa, you know.
Yeah.
Let's do it, Joe. Let's go to the Waverly Hills Sanatorium.
I'm about it, man. Let's do it.
Yeah. Spend the night. Spend the
See,
night.
I don't care to do. I don't. Again, I don't think it's scary. I just
To me, it's
I
a
can't-
great fun experience for me.
Because you might actually get to talk to something.
And I'm going to tell you why it's a great. Well, I've already done that.
Done
Well,
that.
I know that. I know that, but this wouldn't be like, something that's trying to shoot your friend.
What's
This
a
is
really
like-
cool thing for me about stuff like that is I know what's out there. What I really enjoy is having the experience with someone else that has not had the same type of experience that I have and see them embrace what's out there.
Interesting. That's an interesting way to think. Yeah, and I love going with people to get scared. We just went to Frightworks, and I love scary things, man. Like I love.
That scared the shit out of me.
I don't.
Did it really?
Yeah, so bad.
I don't have a Ouija board, but if I've learned anything from that Netflix series the series on Netflix called Haunted,
Great
I'll just
series, by the way.
I'm just gonna go home and roll some oranges, and that'll apparently summon a demon. So bingo, bango, bongo.
A
Done.
fun series to watch.
Yeah, I'm just gonna roll some oranges.
Well,
I don't know,
guys-
if you watch it, episode 2, kids roll oranges and their dad gets possessed by a demon. It's real fucking weird. I love it.
I have to check it out.
Yeah, roll some oranges, get a demon.
Man, we're this episode has gone super long. I hope that they let us upload it. But like before we sign off, do you guys have any more suggestions for fun Halloween for people that might be listening to this on Halloween?
No, just listen to this. Everybody listen to this.
Yeah.
I will tell you
And then-
this:
and then
don't
listen to
do
it
what
again.
we did and go get a bunch of candy and walk around taking candy from kids in the neighborhood. That's a terrible idea.
Yeah, we were bad in the neighborhood. We might have been the whole Ouija board thing might have been a punishment to us. We were awful.
Yeah.
We got up to a lot
Some
of that
nerdy
thing.
kid is like hooked up projections and shit in your room, and he was like, "Steal mine, but 3 Musketeers."
I just
It had a
remember
sugar
guy
razor
named
blade in
Anthony
it.
taking candy.
Yeah. And
Parties in the
Smashing
Woods.
Pumpkins. Before there was a band called Smashing Pumpkins, we had done a lot of it.
Yeah, if you guys want a good Halloween, if this story translates even like 1% from being in the room with it, you're not going to need anything else. Just pop it on, listen, take away a life lesson, and don't fucking touch those
Yeah, if
things.
you're at a party and somebody whips out a Ouija board, get the fuck out of
Just
it.
Yeah, go
leave.
home.
There's
Not
no
worth
reason to stay.
Yeah,
Unless
Cheers.
the weed's good. Then maybe see where the party's gonna go.
At least find another room.
Happy Halloween, fuckers.
Oh my.